Have you ever discovered the person you loved most in the world had been secretly manipulating your body for months without your consent? This is the story of how I found out my boyfriend Derek had been tampering with my birth control pills, replacing them with vitamins, sabotaging condoms, all because he wanted to trap me with a pregnancy before I could leave him for graduate school, and how I discovered this on the night of my acceptance party when he got drunk and told everyone his master plan worked. My name is Jessica. I'm 24 years old. This is the story of how I almost let someone steal my future. I met Derek when I was 21, junior year of college. He was 25, already graduated, working in sales, charming, confident. Everyone loved him. He swept me off my feet, flowers, surprise dates, long conversations about our future together. We moved in together after 6 months. My friends said it was too fast. I didn't listen. Derek seemed perfect, attentive, supportive, said he wanted me to succeed, that he'd support my dreams. I was pre-med, planning to apply to medical school. Derek knew this from day one, said he thought it was amazing, that he'd be proud to be married to a doctor someday. I believed him. Senior year, I started preparing applications, MCAT studying, research positions, volunteer work. Derek was supportive at first. Then things changed. He started making comments. Medical school is so stressful. You sure you want that lifestyle? What about having a family? Don't you want kids someday? I told him I wanted both, career and family, eventually. But medical school came first. He'd nod. Say, of course, then bring it up again a week later. I got accepted to 3 medical schools, top programs, full ride scholarships, my dream coming true. Derek seemed happy, threw me an acceptance party, invited all our friends, his family, my family, everyone celebrating. That night changed everything. Derek got drunk, really drunk, started making toasts, telling everyone how proud he was, how we'd been through so much together. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. And I'm so glad my master plan worked, because Jess would never have stayed otherwise. Everyone laughed, thought it was a joke, but his brother Kyle knew. I saw it on his face. Kyle grabbed Derek, tried to get him to stop talking. Derek shook him off, kept going. I mean, I had to do what I had to do right. Medical school would have taken her away. But now with the baby, she'll stay. She has to. My heart stopped. What baby? I'm not pregnant. Derek looked confused, swayed on his feet. Wait. You haven't taken a test yet. I've been replacing your pills for 3 months. Should have worked by now. The room went silent. Everyone staring. My mother's face went white. Derek's mother looked horrified. I felt like I was going to vomit. You what? I replaced your birth control with vitamins. The pink ones. Look the same. You never noticed. Plus, I've been poking holes in the condoms. Just tiny ones. You can't see them, but they work. Kyle did it with his girlfriend and it worked, so I figured. Kyle interrupted. Dude, shut up. What the hell? Everyone was yelling. My father lunged at Derek. My brothers held him back. Derek's parents were trying to calm everyone down. I just stood there, frozen, unable to process what I'd just heard. My boyfriend of 3 years, the man I'd trusted with everything, had been systematically sabotaging my birth control, trying to get me pregnant, to trap me, to keep me from going to medical school. I ran to the bathroom, locked the door, called my best friend Maya. She was at the party. She came immediately, pounded on the door. Jess, open up. Let me in. I did, collapsed into her arms. Maya held me while I sobbed. Then she got angry. We're calling the police, right now. What he did is assault. It's reproductive coercion. It's illegal in some states. We need to report this. I couldn't think, couldn't process. Just kept replaying Derek's words. My master plan worked. He'd been planning this, for months, deliberately. We left the bathroom. Derek was sitting on the couch, sobered up fast, looked terrified. Jess, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I was drunk. I was joking. You just admitted to tampering with my birth control, in front of 50 people. That's not a joke. It was a bad joke. I shouldn't have said that. I haven't actually been doing anything. I swear. Liar. Everyone heard you. You described exactly how you did it. Pink vitamins, holes in condoms, Kyle's method. You weren't joking. You were bragging. Derek's brother Kyle stepped forward. For the record, I never did that. I don't know why he said that. But Derek, you need to leave. Now. Derek looked at his brother, then at me. Jess, please. We can work this out. Get out. My father's voice, low and dangerous. Get out of this house before I do something I'll regret. Derek left. His parents followed, apologizing profusely, saying they had no idea, that they were horrified, that they'd make sure Derek got help. I didn't care. I went to my childhood bedroom. Maya stayed with me. We talked for hours about what this meant, what I should do. The next morning, I went to the clinic, got tested for pregnancy. Negative. Thank God. But I'd been having unprotected sex for 3 months thinking I was protected. The doctor was horrified when I explained. Said what Derek did was reproductive coercion, a form of sexual assault. That I should report it to police, file for a restraining order. I did both. The police took my statement, said they'd investigate, that this was serious, that Derek could face criminal charges. I filed for a restraining order, granted immediately. Derek was banned from contacting me or coming within 500 feet. I moved out of our apartment that week, took only my things, left everything we'd bought together, stayed with Maya until I found a new place. Derek tried to contact me, called from different numbers. Sent emails, letters, all saying the same thing. He was sorry. He'd been drunk. It was a stupid joke. He never actually did anything. He loved me. Please give him another chance. I never responded. My lawyer advised against any contact. But I had Maya look at the emails, save them as evidence. Then I started investigating. Went through our apartment before I moved out. Found the evidence. A bottle of pink vitamins in Derek's gym bag. Same size and color as my birth control pills. A box of condoms in his nightstand drawer. I examined them carefully. Tiny pinpricks, almost invisible. But there, multiple condoms, all tampered with. I took photos of everything, gave them to police. They charged Derek with reproductive coercion and assault. He pled not guilty. Said I'd planted the evidence, that he'd never do that I was trying to ruin his life because he'd asked me to choose between him and medical school. Lie. He'd never asked me to choose. He'd just secretly tried to make the choice for me. The trial was brutal. Derek's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive. Said I was angry he'd expressed concerns about medical school, that I'd fabricated this entire story to destroy him. But I had witnesses, 50 people at the party who'd heard Derek's drunken confession, including his own parents, his own brother. They all testified, confirmed what he'd said, how he'd described his methods in detail. The jury saw through Derek's lies, found him guilty. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison, 3 years probation, mandatory therapy, permanent restraining order. I testified at sentencing, gave a victim impact statement, talked about how Derek had violated my body, my autonomy, my trust, how he'd tried to steal my future, trap me in a life I hadn't chosen. The judge was clearly disgusted, said Derek's actions represented a profound betrayal. That reproductive coercion was a serious crime that violated fundamental bodily autonomy. That he hoped the sentence would deter others from similar behavior. Derek cried during sentencing. His parents cried. I didn't. I was done crying over him. I started medical school that fall. Top choice program, full scholarship, everything I'd worked for. Some people asked if I'd considered delaying, taking time to process the trauma. I said no. Derek had already tried to steal this from me. I wouldn't give him another day. Medical school was hard, harder than I'd imagined, but I loved it, threw myself into studying, made amazing friends, found professors who mentored me, slowly began to heal. I saw a therapist, specialized in sexual trauma and reproductive coercion. She helped me process what had happened, the violation, the betrayal, the grief over a relationship that had never been what I thought it was. She asked if I'd ever suspected. Looking back, were there signs? I said yes. Derek's increasing comments about medical school, his questions about having kids, the way he'd get upset when I talked about my future plans. But I'd dismissed it all. thought he was just insecure, needed reassurance, never imagined he was actively sabotaging my birth control. The therapist said that's common, that perpetrators of reproductive coercion are often skilled manipulators, that they make victims doubt their own perceptions, make them feel guilty for pursuing their goals. That's what Derek had done. Made me feel selfish for wanting medical school, made me question whether I could have both career and relationship, all while secretly trying to force the issue by getting me pregnant. I learned that reproductive coercion is more common than people realize, that many women experience partners tampering with birth control, pressuring them to get pregnant, sabotaging contraception. Most don't report it, don't even recognize it as abuse. I was lucky. Derek's drunken confession gave me undeniable proof. Most women aren't that lucky. I became an advocate. Started speaking about reproductive coercion at medical schools, at women's health conferences, sharing my story, warning people about the signs, the manipulation, the control. Some people asked why I was so public about something so personal. I said because silence protects abusers, because Derek almost got away with it. If he hadn't gotten drunk and bragged at a party, no one would have known. I'd have gotten pregnant, dropped out of medical school, spent years trapped with someone who'd violated my most basic rights. I refused to let that happen to someone else. Derek got out of prison after 18 months. Good behavior. He violated his probation within a week. Showed up at the hospital where I was doing my clinical rotations. Security escorted him out. Police arrested him. He went back to prison for another year. When he got out the second time, he finally seemed to understand. Stayed away. Moved to a different state. I heard through mutual friends that he was in therapy, that he'd lost his job, that most of his friends had cut him off. Good. Actions have consequences. I'm in my 3rd year of medical school now, top of my class, planning to specialize in obstetrics and gynecology, want to help women, advocate for reproductive rights, make sure no one else experiences what I did. I'm in a new relationship with someone I met in medical school, someone who respects my goals, my autonomy, my body. We've had extensive conversations about birth control, about consent, about what happened with Derek. He's horrified by my story. Says he can't imagine violating someone like that. That reproductive coercion is evil. I believe him, but I'm also careful. I keep my birth control in my bag. Never leave it where someone else could access it. I check condoms before using them. I'm vigilant in ways I never was before. Some people might say that's sad, that Derek stole my ability to trust. Maybe he did, but he also taught me the importance of protecting myself. Of never assuming someone has your best interests at heart just because they say they love you. Love isn't control. Love isn't manipulation. Love isn't secretly sabotaging someone's birth control because you're afraid they'll leave you. That's abuse, plain and simple, and I refuse to ever accept it again. Derek tried to steal my future. He failed. I'm exactly where I always planned to be. Medical school, career path secured, future bright. He's the one who lost everything, his freedom, his reputation, his relationship, all because he thought he could control me. He was wrong, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure other women know they don't have to accept control either. That reproductive coercion is real. It's illegal. It's abuse. And it's never okay. Thanks for listening. Subscribe if you believe in bodily autonomy and reproductive rights. Comment if you've experienced reproductive coercion. Share if this resonated. See you next time. What I didn't tell you yet is everything that happened in the weeks after the party, the investigation, the medical examinations, the moment I realized just how close I'd come to having my entire life derailed, and the discovery that made everything even worse. Because Derek hadn't just been tampering with my birth control for 3 months. He'd been planning this for over a year. The morning after the party, I woke up at my parents' house. For a moment, I forgot. Then it all came flooding back. Derek's drunken confession. My master plan worked. The vitamins. The holes in the condoms. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. My mother found me there. Held my hair back. Didn't say anything. Just held me. When I finally stopped, she asked the question I'd been dreading. Are you pregnant? I don't know. We need to find out. She drove me to Planned Parenthood. I couldn't face my regular doctor, couldn't imagine explaining this to someone who knew me. The nurse at Planned Parenthood was kind, had clearly seen this before. Asked me gently about what happened. I told her everything. She didn't seem shocked, just sad. Said reproductive coercion was more common than most people realized, that she saw cases regularly. Women whose partners had tampered with their birth control, pressured them to get pregnant, sabotaged contraception. She did a pregnancy test, blood test for accuracy, made me wait an hour for results, longest hour of my life. Maya sat with me, held my hand, said whatever the result we'd figure it out, that I had options, that I wasn't alone. The nurse came back, pregnancy test negative. I burst into tears, relief flooding through me. But the nurse wasn't done. She said I needed a full STI panel, that if Derek had been poking holes in condoms without my knowledge, I'd been exposed to any infections he might have. Plus, I needed to be tested again in 6 weeks. Sometimes pregnancy doesn't show up immediately. I hadn't thought about STIs, hadn't thought about anything beyond pregnancy. The realization that Derek might have exposed me to diseases made me feel violated all over again. The STI tests came back negative. Thank God. But I had to go back every month for 3 months to be sure. Each visit a reminder of what Derek had done. Each test a fresh wave of anxiety. I moved out of our apartment that week, took only my clothes and personal items, left furniture, kitchen supplies, everything we'd accumulated together. I couldn't stand to look at any of it, couldn't separate what was mine from what was ours. So I left it all. Derek tried to stop me, showed up while I was packing, ignored the temporary restraining order I'd filed. My brothers were there, physically blocked him from entering, told him to leave before they called the police. Derek stood in the hallway, crying, begging. Jess, please, I love you. We can work this out. It was just a stupid drunk joke. I never actually did anything. My brother Marcus stepped forward. We all heard you. 50 people heard you describe exactly how you tampered with her birth control. You weren't joking. You were bragging until you realized she wasn't pregnant and panicked. Derek kept trying. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't leave. Jess, we're supposed to get married, have kids together. I'm calling the police. Maya's voice. She was filming everything on her phone. You're violating a restraining order. You have 2 minutes to leave before cops arrive. Derek finally left, but not before looking at me one more time. Voice breaking. I did this because I love you, because I couldn't lose you. That's not love. I said it quietly, but I meant it. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't violate. Love doesn't secretly sabotage someone's birth control because you're afraid they'll succeed without you. Derek had no response to that, just turned and walked away. I finished packing, moved into Maya's apartment temporarily, slept on her couch for 2 weeks until I found my own place. Small studio, expensive, but mine, safe. Somewhere Derek had never been. I started seeing a therapist immediately, Dr. Sarah Chin, specialized in sexual trauma. I told her I didn't think I'd been sexually assaulted. Derek never forced me, never physically hurt me. Dr. Chin stopped me. What Derek did was sexual assault. He obtained your consent for sex under false pretenses. You consented to protected sex. He secretly made it unprotected. That's assault. Consent requires honesty. He lied. Therefore, you couldn't truly consent. That reframe changed everything. I'd been minimizing what happened, telling myself it wasn't that bad. He didn't rape me. He just tampered with birth control. But Dr. Chen was right. Derek had violated me, had sex with me under conditions I hadn't agreed to. That was assault, even if he never physically forced me. The police investigation moved quickly. They interviewed everyone at the party. All 50 witnesses confirmed Derek's confession. Described how he'd bragged about his master plan, how he'd detailed his methods. Derek's brother Kyle gave a particularly damning statement. Said Derek had asked him months ago about baby trapping. Kyle had thought it was hypothetical, a weird conversation. But Derek kept bringing it up, asking detailed questions. How do you make sure she gets pregnant? What if she's on the pill? Kyle admitted he'd jokingly suggested replacing pills with vitamins or poking holes in condoms. Never thought Derek would actually do it. Was horrified when he heard Derek's confession at the party. The police searched Derek's apartment. Our old apartment. Found everything. The bottle of pink vitamins, identical to my birth control pills. The box of tampered condoms. Hidden in Derek's bedside drawer. Tiny pinpricks in multiple condoms. Almost invisible, but definitely there. They also found Derek's laptop. Digital evidence. Search history going back 8 months. How to get girlfriend pregnant secretly. Can you replace birth control pills without her knowing? How long does it take to get pregnant after stopping birth control? Do pinholes in condoms really work? Articles about baby trapping. Forums where men discussed ways to trap their girlfriends. Derek had been researching this for months. This wasn't a drunken impulse. This was premeditated, calculated. He'd planned every detail. The prosecutor was a woman named Amanda Torres. She'd handled sexual assault cases for 15 years. She was furious when she reviewed the evidence. Said Derek's level of planning made this especially egregious. That most reproductive coercion cases were hard to prove. But Derek had essentially gift-wrapped the evidence. The drunken confession, the witnesses, the physical evidence, the digital trail. It was an open and shut case. Derek's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, offered to plead guilty to a misdemeanor. No jail time, probation and therapy. Amanda refused, said this was felony assault. That Derek needed to face real consequences. That too many men got away with reproductive coercion because women didn't report it or prosecutors didn't take it seriously. She was taking it seriously. The trial lasted 3 days. Derek testified in his own defense. Big mistake. He tried to claim he'd been joking at the party, that he'd exaggerated to sound cool in front of his friends, that he'd never actually tampered with anything. Amanda destroyed him on cross-examination, walked through his search history, made him read his searches out loud in court. How to get girlfriend pregnant secretly. Derek squirmed, said he'd been curious, just researching hypothetically. You researched hypothetically for 8 months? Yes. And you purchased vitamins that exactly matched your girlfriend's birth control pills. Hypothetically. I don't remember buying those. They were found in your gym bag. Your fingerprints were on the bottle. Someone must have planted them. Your girlfriend planted them in your personal gym bag. Yes. After you'd already confessed to 50 people, including your own parents, that you'd been replacing her pills. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. You described your methods in detail. You said you'd been doing it for 3 months. You asked your brother Kyle for advice months earlier. You had search history going back 8 months. But you want this jury to believe you never actually did anything. That's correct. The jury didn't believe him. Convicted on all counts. Felony reproductive coercion. Felony assault. Felony tampering with contraception. Derek cried when the verdict was read. His mother sobbed. His father sat stone-faced. I felt nothing. Just relief that it was over. Sentencing was 6 weeks later. I gave my victim impact statement, talked about the violation, the betrayal, the fear I'd felt waiting for pregnancy test results, the ongoing anxiety, the therapy, the way Derek had tried to steal my future. The judge listened carefully. Then delivered the sentence. 2 years state prison, 3 years probation, mandatory therapy for duration of probation, permanent restraining order, required registration as a sex offender. Wait, what? I hadn't expected that. Derek's lawyer objected. Argued sex offender registration was excessive, that Derek hadn't committed a traditional sexual offense. The judge disagreed. Said reproductive coercion was absolutely a sexual offense. That Derek had violated my bodily autonomy, my sexual consent, my reproductive rights, that he posed a risk to future partners, that registration was appropriate and necessary. Derek was led away in handcuffs, screaming that it wasn't fair, that his life was ruined, that he'd only done it because he loved me. The judge called for order, said love doesn't justify assault, that Derek had made his choices. Now he'd live with the consequences. I started medical school 3 months later. Orientation week, new city, new apartment, fresh start. Some of my classmates had heard about the case. It had gotten media coverage, local news, some national outlets. Young woman's boyfriend confesses to reproductive coercion at acceptance party. Most people were supportive. A few were judgmental. Said I should have been more careful, that I should have noticed my pills were different, that I should have examined the condoms. Victim blaming at its finest. One guy in my anatomy class actually said it. You have to admit you were kind of careless. I stared at him. Excuse me. I mean, you didn't notice your pills were different. You didn't check the condoms. You have to take some responsibility. I'm responsible for being assaulted. That's what you're saying. He backtracked. That's not what I meant. I just think. You just think women need to be more careful. That if we're not hypervigilant every second, then we deserve what we get. That it's our fault when men violate us. That's victim blaming. And it's exactly why reproductive coercion is so underreported. Because people like you make victims feel responsible for their own assault. He never spoke to me again. Good. But other classmates became friends, allies. One woman named Rachel shared her own story. Her ex-boyfriend had pressured her to stop taking birth control, told her it was unhealthy, that hormones were bad for her body. She'd believed him, trusted him, got pregnant within 2 months. He'd acted surprised, but she realized later he'd planned it. She'd had an abortion, left him, never reported it, said she didn't think anyone would believe her. I told her she wasn't alone. That reproductive coercion was more common than people realized. We started a support group, women in medical school who'd experienced reproductive coercion or intimate partner violence, met monthly, shared stories, supported each other. Some had never told anyone. Some had reported but not been believed. All of them felt less alone after finding each other. We also started advocacy work, spoke at orientation events, educated incoming students about consent, about reproductive coercion, about resources available. The dean of students supported us, said these conversations were crucial, that too many medical students experienced assault or coercion and never reported it. I graduated top of my class, matched into an OB/GYN residency, my dream specialty. I work with pregnant women every day, and I screen every patient for reproductive coercion, ask directly if their pregnancy was planned, if they felt pressured, if they have control over their contraception. Most patients are surprised by the questions. Some get defensive, but occasionally someone tears up, says no, says their partner pressured them, or tampered with their birth control, or coerced them into getting pregnant. Those are the patients I can help, the ones I refer to resources, to therapists who specialize in domestic violence, to legal advocates who can help them report, to support groups where they can heal. I became the advocate I needed when I was 24, and Derek destroyed my trust. Derek got out of prison after 18 months, violated probation immediately. I was doing a shift in the emergency department when security called, said someone was looking for me in the lobby, refusing to leave. It was Derek. Hospital security escorted him out. I called the police, reported the violation. Derek was arrested, sentenced to another 12 months for probation violation. When he got out the second time, he finally seemed to learn. Moved across the country. I heard through mutual friends he was in intensive therapy, that he'd lost most of his friends, that he'd been fired from multiple jobs once employers learned about his conviction, that his name appeared on sex offender registries, that dating was nearly impossible. Good. Actions have consequences. I don't feel sorry for him, not even a little. He tried to steal my future. He violated my body. He assaulted me. He planned it for months. He deserves every consequence he faces, and if his life is harder now, that's his own fault. Some people have asked if I've forgiven him, if I've found peace. I've found peace, but not through forgiveness, through justice, through advocacy, through helping other women avoid what happened to me, through building the career Derek tried to steal. Forgiveness would mean absolving him. I won't do that. He doesn't deserve absolution. He deserves exactly what he got: prison, registration, a ruined reputation, a life marked by his choices. That's justice, and justice is enough for me. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you believe reproductive coercion is assault. Comment your stories. Share if this helped someone. See you next time.